Hello everyone and welcome back to Enter the Ether, the podcast about the upcoming third-person MOBA Ethereal Clash of Souls. I'm your host, the Mangoose. Joining me as always is the future king of the Skungle himself. It's JellyKnees. How you doing, Jelly?
Heck yes! Great intro. Big fan, big fan. I'm always a little nervous each week because I don't know what you're going to say. And so sometimes it's great and sometimes I'm like, what the hell? Where are we going with this? So this week's a good week. I'm happy about that. I'm great, man. How about you?
I'm doing well, this week we're going to be talking about the Leah Spotlight, and then after that we're going to have a discussion about how we think just flying characters in general will affect the MOBA genre. So the Leah Spotlight, Jelly. Let's get into it.
I'm so like mixed on this Spotlight for some reason.
Yeah.
I love everything about it, but I also really don't like a lot of things about it at the same time. So it's one of those things. Overall, I think it's a great Spotlight though. What were your kind of feelings on it?
I think they stepped it up a little bit in the video production category. Still a few things I think they need to iron out. Leah was awesome. I think she had the best like intro out of all of them yet, like where they're talking about her lore. Like they got several really good angles of her character model. They got her performing various actions. I really like that. They're just and then they told us right up front that there were some problems with her ability too, how it doesn't look good. It looked all right from the side, but yeah, from the behind the Grognark's shoulder, yeah, it did not look great.
Which, okay, now that you mention him, we have to talk about him. Grognark was the target. What?
Did not see. I totally thought it was Dante. I think you and I discussed that.
Yeah.
We both thought it was going to be Dante since he hadn't been a target dummy yet. But no, it was Grognark. I was ecstatic, like whenever they premiered it, and I was like, "Oh, that's Grognark."
Yeah, I know a lot of people in their Discord were like, "Oh my God, we see him finally! Like he's finally real." It was a weird surprise, but a welcome one to be sure. They did mention, speaking of, that Leah's sizing was off.
Oh, really?
And that she was actually in this. She was the same size as Iran when she's supposed to be smaller.
Oh, okay.
So that's why she kind of looked comparable to Grognark, because in my mind, Grognark was going to be this giant thing, and it didn't quite feel that way in the Spotlight. But I think it was Skifter mentioned that her sizing was off.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was thinking too, like he's hunched over on all fours. Like if he stood up, he would.
Oh, he'd be
tower.
massive.
He would tower over her. But if she was even bigger than she's supposed to be, then yeah, Grognark's pretty damn big.
Now I just need to see him rolling around the map, and I'll be ecstatic.
But
But
you
so
really
I
wanted
mean,
the Sonic, huh?
Absolutely. We're gonna have the Grog nuke in a ball form, just running it down lanes. It's can't wait. But Leah's abilities and things. Her passive is really interesting. I think it could be utilized better than what we got with it. So the passive, for those of you that don't know, is I believe it's going to be 5 casts that she'll cast 4 times, and on the 5th cast, the effect takes place.
That's the way I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, based on how it was laid out with the UI and everything. But so every 5 casts, she's going to gain an added bonus effect to one of her core 3 abilities. Overall, I think it's a great passive for her, especially with what some of them do. I think overall, though, the added effects on the abilities were kind of meh. On a lot of them. What did you kind of think about her passive, Mangoose?
Immediately thought of Crunch as soon as I mean, I've actually known about her passive for months now, and like when I first learned of it, I was like, oh, she's got like Crunch's passive. That's awesome, because I loved Crunch. Like, yeah, I didn't jungle much in Paragon, but when I did, I like to use Crunch. I liked him in the offlane, I liked him in the jungle. And it was just a satisfying feeling to pull off the correct combo and line your ability up the way you wanted to. It was just a really rewarding experience, I thought. And I think Leah will be equally rewarding with her passive. I don't know about how, like I read it like you did. Like after 4 casts, the 5th one will be empowered. That might be a little too many, I think. I think Crunch had the right number with 3.
Yeah.
So
especially when you consider that she's only going to have 5 abilities total. So unless the cooldowns are really low on her abilities, having to do a full rotation to get one use of her passive is kind of nuts. And that's assuming her right mouse button counts as an ability toward that passive.
Right.
Which is kind of the interesting thing is if it does count, when she's roaming between the jungle, she can just keep using her right click to build up that passive and then have it for a fight. If it doesn't count, that means she has 4 abilities and needs 5 casts, which is even worse. So it'll be interesting to see how they go that route. I agree with you that it feels like too many. I think at worst, it should be on the 4th cast instead of on the 5th cast.
Right. That might be what it is. That's just the way I read it, was after 4 casts, your 5th ability would proc the wisdom of Yahimi.
Yeah, which is different. They changed the name apparently fairly recently.
Yeah.
Because like my video, it was still called Heiress of the Jungle. And then in the spotlight, it was called Wisdom of Yahimi. So I'm not sure what happened there, but if there was some change. But I actually sent a message to Skifter asking about her passive and when it procs. I just haven't heard back about that yet.
Okay.
So we should know soon.
In any case, it should be an easy fix if they do need to reduce it. Might be a good tuning knob for her. If she's a little too powerful, then up it. If she's a little too weak, then lower the amount of casts that she needs.
Yeah. And then, so her first ability is Galebound Thrust. I think this is going to be her kind of bread and butter clearing ability in the jungle. She does a thrust forward, and my guess is it's going to do damage in a line, and then at the end of that line, it explodes into a cone. Fairly straightforward ability.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me that they specifically mentioned that one target can't take damage from both the thrust and the cone.
Right.
And to me, that shouldn't be a thing. You should be able to take damage from both, because you should never be in a position to take damage from both. You're either getting hit by the thrust or getting hit by the cone. But if for some reason you use an ability and you get hit by the thrust and dash backwards into the cone, you should be able to take the double damage from that. I think it's a weird caveat to apply to the ability.
Maybe it's for characters like Grognark who could very easily get hit by both.
But they're just big enough. Yeah.
Like his head gets hit with the trident, and then his ass gets hit with the cone.
Which, I mean, if you add her passive, so her passive, her added ability for Galebound Thrust is that the cone explodes twice instead of once.
Right.
And does slightly reduced damage.
I think it's going to be. I think in the video I did for her, I equated it to left crunch. That was Crunch's big damage. If you wanted to deal big damage, that's the one you empowered. I think if you want to deal the most damage as possible with Leah, this is the one you're going to want to empower. As long as you can keep them there for the second hit.
Yeah, I completely agree. Overall, I like the ability. It'll be interesting to find like the sweet spot for jungle camps.
Mm-hmm.
In how she's going to have to use the ability to hit the jungle camp the best way she can. Especially with the second proc, and if it's fast enough to actually hit the minions twice or whatever it's going to look like.
Right.
Her second ability is Sacred Plumage. She fires feathers out in a straight line. Really straightforward ability. And then the added bonus effect is that she heals herself and allies that are around if she has the empowered cast.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how much it heals.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the big thing. If it doesn't heal enough, I don't see Leah's using it almost ever.
Right.
Especially because she's a diver. So in team fights, she's not going to be stacked around her teammates. So I'm not sure the heal is effective in healing allies. And as a jungler, I understand she needs some kind of sustain, especially when you're dealing 18 camps, right? You're going to, assuming that she just takes her own sky jungle camps. 18 camps is a lot to keep healthy. So she needs that sustain. So I think I'd rather it be a self-heal that does more rather than an AoE with allies. If you're playing her right, you won't be near your allies. You're going to be diving in, doing damage. So it's kind of this counterintuitive part of the ability, I guess.
The only thing I can think of is if healing your dive buddy so you both make it out of there.
Yeah.
Because usually if you're playing a dive
and Ron
pump,
just run in there. Just, here we go, man. You and me.
Talos flips in. Leah glides in. Ron just charges through, fearing everybody.
Yeah, which it's great that you mentioned Leah glides in, because her graceful glide, crashing dive.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Why does it have two names for one?
Yeah,
and two, and this is something I've already discussed with Skifter and Owen. They will be speeding that up. Like that's
good.
that's not going to be the speed that it is in game. Because both halves of it. Just real quick, what it does, it's a lot like Sereth's Ascend and Paragon. You fly up in the air, hover, you pick a target location, you crash down. Well, you glide smoothly down and tiptoe upon the grass when you land. And it deals damage in an AoE, knocks people up. If you empower it, it goes a little bit faster, and you get a shield for every enemy hit with the knock up. Crazy good ability if they speed it up. Like it goes a little too slow at this point, and they're definitely going to be speeding this one up. I actually went and pulled Sereth's animations out of the Unreal Engine to compare. Like I was like, what is so off about this? Why is this so much worse than Sereth? And I think it is the speed, because Sereth's animation, she really doesn't have like any kind of crazy things going on whenever she comes down. Like she pretty much just stays in the same position until she lands. But she goes a lot faster, and then there's a bigger splash whenever she hits the ground. And I think that's the main thing. If they speed that up, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a crazy good ability.
Yeah, if they make it flying instead of falling with style, it'll feel way better. So I think Leah, instead of falling with style, I think it also needs a animation wherever she lands. Because right now, it just kind of looked like she just kind of hit the ground, and that was that.
Yeah.
And as an enemy, it's going to be hard to say, like, I'm in that zone versus out of that zone if there's no visual indicator as to what that looks like. The first couple times, yeah, you're going to get hit by it. But then you know, just based off of feel of that animation, how far away you need to be. And those micro steps make the difference.
Yeah. I think it'll be a great engage tool if you can empower it. If you jump into several people and get a huge shield, and then you can heal on top of that. Maybe if you get enough abilities cast afterwards. But yeah, it'll be great for peel, because the knock-up doesn't just come with the empowered version. You can use it at any time. So you can hover. If you fly up and then you see somebody's on your marina, like a Malaya's on your top of your marina, you can fly down and CC her and get her off of your marina or whatever. So I think it's just a great ability all around. Just doesn't look that great, and I think it will look better once they speed it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And then her, honestly, probably the strongest ability we've seen, potentially, other than, I guess we'll just take Noxus out of the equation. If we remove Noxus, probably the strongest ability we've seen of them all is her ultimate. Being able to knock up enemies on the outward, when it flies outward. So, Tornado, it flies in a straight line. She sends it out a set distance, and then it automatically comes back, or she can recast to call it back early. Fairly straightforward ability, but it does damage. It knocks up on the outward cast. Then when it's coming inward, it does damage again, and then pulls enemies toward Leah. Which, if you land a good 6-person windstorm, that's just almost going to end a team fight in and of itself.
Yeah, especially if you could pull them all back at once. You hit them with the sacred plumage and the thrusty coney thing. Oh.
That's the new name. Leah's first ability, thrusty coney thing.
But yeah, I mean, there's no empowered version of this, and it doesn't need it. It doesn't need any more power. That is insane to have 2 forms of CC on her ultimate, and for it to be fucking huge.
Yeah.
Either they're going to have to make it not deal a whole hell of a lot of damage, or put it on a very long cooldown, because that's going to be frightening to play against.
The weird thing I noticed in the spotlight is that on the outward cast, Grognark gets knocked up, and you kind of see that like slight knocked up animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the inward, when it was coming back, he had that same animation during the pull, where he was being pulled toward her. So I'm curious if that's going to act as a knock-up, that he is essentially silenced during it, instead of just being that he's being moved.
Yeah.
He actually can still cast during that movement, because that if you can cancel abilities or make them not cast something twice during one ability, that's insane. Yeah, it potentially could be the strongest ability in this game, aside from Noxus' entire kit.
Really, really insane, really crazy. Her kit, I think, looks the most interesting, but it also looks the worst as far as animations. But yeah, it's by far if they can correct some of the things that they know was wrong, then they told us beforehand it was wrong, and correct the graceful glide, crash. Just call it crash and dive. You don't need the graceful glide part of it.
I agree, 100%.
If they could speed that up a little bit, I'm very tempted to actually play Leah just because I like that play style.
Yeah, absolutely. And the combos with her, you can already start to see them with how her kit shaped up.
Right.
You can enter, or you have the damage to deal. You have your ultimate. She has multiple avenues depending on what the situation needs, which I think is really great. And a lot of myths are going to need that for the switching up of positions and fighting, and especially with how big the map is and the terrain changes and all of that kind of stuff.
And her special. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Her special, we kind of skimmed over it a bit, but I think that's the most balanced special we've seen so far. The other ones seem to have downsides that were very easily avoidable. This one, yeah, you just take extra damage and you sacrifice that for you get a speed boost for that. I think that's just plain and simple. There's an upside and a downside. The other ones, there didn't seem to be that much of a downside.
Yeah, it's the others ones are more of a downside if you royally screw up.
Right.
Whereas this is just a flat downside. Like there's just nothing to it. And I think that's really great to see for someone that we know is going to be roaming around a lot. She gets a lot of move speed, but if she gets caught out during that, she's going to get hurt. And I was talking with some people about whether or not this ability should be a toggle. That she either turns it on and always has move speed but takes extra damage.
Right.
And then or turns it off and just has the base move speed and base damage. And the kind of consensus was that'd be nice, but the hard part is she could just always use it and then just turn it off the second she sees anybody.
Right.
So maybe she takes one hit of damage, of extra damage, but then she just turns it off and that's no big deal. Whereas making it that set duration makes the difference, and that it's actually a downside that if she gets caught early, she's just screwed for the next 8 seconds, 10 seconds, however long it lasts. Having
a set duration makes it requires more intelligence to use it correctly too, which I think is good. If you can just toggle it on and off, I don't know if I like that.
This ties in slightly to our kind of Sky Slayer talk, but do you think she should be able to use Tailwind while she's flying?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I would agree. I think
I'm
especially
kind of
traveling
that she will be.
Yeah, I think traveling between ice and fire lane especially, that's the prime time to use it, is to get from one place to the other.
Right.
Without taking 30 seconds of flight where you're just looking at the map. Yeah, wow, that's great down there. I'm just, touring across the Elysium.
Or to flank behind the enemy team during a team fight.
Yeah.
Just real quickly and then land and go for it. Her other abilities, I don't know if you're going to be able to cast them during flight, but
that I think should be allowed to be cast during flight is crashing dive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and maybe make it take longer to cast or something, but because she's in the air and the whole point of the ability is that she flies into the air and then crashes, make it so she can do the crash from her normal flight.
Right.
I don't know if they are or not. That's something. Hopefully they'll answer this video and leave it in the comments and we'll know for next week. But
I think they'd have to put like a certain height on it that you could do it, because if you could just fly
endlessly
all the way up, like nobody'd ever see you coming. You'd just be a fucking green, blue, and red comet. Look like a reading rainbow coming out of the sky.
Be the fastest way to travel between lanes. You just fly straight up and then just angle all the way down. Especially if they increase the speed, then she'll really just be cruising. Just give me a multiplier. The longer she's in the air, the faster she goes.
Speaking of height, we were talking about this earlier. Holy shit, she goes high.
Yeah, I am surprised that the skybox is that high.
Yeah.
Truly. I think...
I did talk to a few people in UG, and she did not have her stamina bar engaged during the test. During the test, so she was able to just kind of fly around at will. That might be a dangerous thing to do, to fly up that high. It'd be kind of like when you're playing Ark and you're on a Pteranodon and like you're just trying desperately to get close enough to the ground so you don't die whenever you fucking jump off your bird. So maybe it'll be that sort of deal. Maybe you can fly that high, but it's probably not that great of an idea.
So the other thing for that is, do you think her using her flight should count as in combat? So in the past, for those of you that don't know, they've stated that if you fall while you're in a in combat state, you will take damage. You will take fall damage. So toward that end, if Leah decides to fly straight up into the air and loses all her stamina, does that count as in combat, and should she take damage for it?
That's a good question. I would think she would. I would think she should, but I don't think it would be. I think it would be very hard to program because she technically wouldn't be in combat with anybody.
Yeah, because there's no damage involved in doing that.
Right.
The only concern I have if she does enter an in combat state is it may feel really bad really often.
Right.
That if you, especially when you're learning the Sky Slayers and learning how to manage that stamina bar, if you mismanage it and you don't quite make it up to Fire Lane from Void and you just crash back down and instantly die, that's going to feel terrible.
Yeah.
And that to me, if I was a new player, I'd be like, I am never playing a Sky Slayer ever again. Like, that's a real quick way to burn me off that class of hero or class of myth. So I would understand in some capacity wanting the damage there, but at the same time, it feels not friendly.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. And granted, the stamina bar could be way bigger than we're even considering. And if you run out of stamina traveling somewhere, that's your own damn fault. It's just SOL. Sucks to be you, man.
Yeah. Huh.
Lots to think about.
Yeah.
The speed of her flight surprised me as well. It seemed like she could travel pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so this kind of brings up to something I thought of. What does view distance look like? Because if she can just fly that high above Void Lane, kind of like we saw in the spotlight, what stops me from basically getting a free vision all the way down across the entire lane and calling it out to my team?
Yeah, I mentioned that in the video I did for her too. Like, it seems a little busted if you've got Dante with his global snipe and you're able to just fly up and get vision of the entire enemy team.
Yeah, especially if they have some kind of like accurate ping system that I can ping a location.
Yeah.
If I could fly above, tell Dante right here on this camp, do it, hit him.
Well, I mean, she would see him, so your team would be able to see him.
Oh, on the mini map. Oh, I didn't even think about that part. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that Leah could see them.
Yeah, and
that
I was
broken,
thinking, like, conversely, would everybody be able to see Leah in the air?
Yeah. And so then do you institute view distance as...
I think you would have to.
Which is going to feel weird. I think for laners, that's going to feel weird. Because if you're looking down the lane, right, that was the thing I always thought about in Paragon, right? Is if I'm sitting on a tower, I can look down the majority of the lane and make an accurate guess of seeing the enemy laner coming back and when I need to kind of play safer. But if you have a set view distance, that's going to be harder to do in a 3D MOBA, especially.
Yeah. I think as long as they don't get outlined, like, you know, with Paragon 2, like Murdoch, at a certain distance, you no longer got their outline unless one of your teammates was close enough to them to see that outline. But you could still snipe somebody. You could still see their model in the distance and hit them with a snipe. You just didn't see their name above their head or anything like that. I think that's what they're going to have to do with Leah. Because if she could just fly up and get outlines on everybody, that'll be insane.
And maybe they institute a view distance in terms of minimap only. So you can look as far as you want, but the minimap doesn't show it unless you're within a certain distance of that player.
Right. Yeah, that's about what they're going to have to do. Otherwise, it's extremely unfair.
Yeah, it's going to be insane.
It would make Sky Slayers almost...
they would just become UAVs in the sky. The whole game. They'll just flying between ice and fire lane. Just, oh, yep, I see Malaya over down there on the red buff. There she is. Like, yeah, that's what they're going to have to become. I guarantee it. If that's the stamina bar is forgiving enough and you get unlimited vision, those first couple weeks of the pre-alpha, we're just going to see Leah flying back and forth between lanes. Yeah. It's going to be weird, but it'll be fun. I would love doing that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Sounds like the greatest clickbait title, UAV Leah, right? Like, I love it.
And something you have here, I found it to be quite interesting. Like if she is following, could she use her crashing dive to save herself from fall damage? Just target the ground.
Yeah, which I don't know. I feel like she should, but she shouldn't at the same time. It comes back down to if she can cast that ability in the air.
Right.
I think if she can, then technically she has a way that if it's off cooldown to negate fall damage. If she can't, then that is a moot point. If she's in combat, she just takes damage.
I used to do that in World of Warcraft on my warrior, because you took fall damage in Warcraft, but you had heroic leap, which you leapt to a target
waited
location.
Just for the right timing, you could
you could heroic leap to the ground and not take any damage whatsoever. Yeah.
And maybe that's something they have to differentiate her states. If she's truly flying, then she can use it. But if she's just falling from somewhere, she can't cast it in a free fall.
Now, what do you think about shooting her down? Like, should her receiving a shot immediately take her out of flight? Just kill her stamina?
I don't think so. Purely because we saw that with travel mode in Paragon.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, very slightly different, but essentially the same thing. Of one tick of damage is enough to root somebody in place or knock her out of the air or whatever it may be. And if she's in transition, if she's flying off of Ice Lane and Dante walks over and just gets one lucky shot on her, she falls to void and dies because she's in combat and has fall damage now.
Right.
So so that's a free kill for Dante off of one shot. But I don't think that should be how it works. The best way I thought of is that when she receives damage, it eats at her stamina bar.
Okay, yeah.
That you come up with some ratio of damage to stamina, and when she takes damage, it just lowers her stamina bar that much over time, for however much damage she takes.
Right. That would be cool. I like that.
I think that's probably the best way to do it. That kind of is forgiving on all sides, without being too forgiving at the same time.
Right.
Because they've talked about that she takes extra damage or Sky Slayers in general take extra damage during flight, which I think for Leah specifically is potentially too much because doubling her damage twice is way too high. But I think overall that's just gonna feel bad for Sky Slayers because that means that they can only use their flight in a non-combat scenario. They can't fly into a fight somewhere.
Right.
If somebody sees them, they can just pick them off and do tons of damage really, really quickly.
Is that a way to balance them, though?
Potentially. But I think that's where the chunking of stamina bar on damage comes into play. They still take the damage for it, but they lose stamina at the same time. So
that would be another great tuning knob. If they're a little too overpowered, just increase the amount of stamina damage they take.
Yep. Whether it be 1-to-1 or 1.5-to-1 or whatever that number looks like. We talked in the past about how balancing this game is going to be an undertaking.
Right.
That's something that could very easily be tunable. It will take some time to be sure, but tunable to a good level. That would be great in terms of balancing Sky Slayers out.
Yeah.
Because we kind of talked about it a little bit already, but Sky Slayers in a MOBA are going to change the face of the game. There's no clear rotations anymore for Sky Slayers.
Right. And nowhere's safe.
Yeah. Like you have to. The one thing about even 3D MOBAs that was relatively safe was straight vertical. Unless you were in like one or two areas in Paragon, or there's some of these that you have like spots where somebody could jump down on me from here.
Right.
The Sky Slayers can do that from anywhere. Especially
you knew what route somebody could take to get behind you, and you could be cognizant of that. Now they can come from behind you from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be the biggest impact that Sky Slayers will have on the MOBA genre, just overall. Is you're going to have to keep your eyes on your minimap, you're going to have to keep your eyes on the sky, and you're going to have to keep, of course, your eyes in front of you.
Which is a lot to manage, in addition to your abilities and your timers and all of those kind of things. When the objectives are up, the camps, if you're another jungler, like there's a lot of, it's another added element that you have to think about constantly of where the Sky Slayer is. especially because it sounds like they want to have at least one Sky Slayer in every game. That's something you have to manage, that you have to know regular rotation times versus Sky Slayer rotation times across the map to see how it works. It'll be interesting to see. I'm super excited for that part of it to start developing and figuring it all out. But it's going to be frustrating those first couple weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Have a Sky Slayer just show up on you out of nowhere.
Excuse me. The Sky Slayers might just be just noob slayers, like Chimera was, until people figure out how to actually deal with them. And then once you figure out how to deal with them, it might be pretty easy to deal with a Sky Slayer.
Yeah, we may see in the higher states of play that Sky Slayers aren't played as often, or played in very sparingly ways.
Or played more as a UAV than as an actual.
Oh, can you imagine being that guy? What position do you play? Oh, I play Sky Jungle. Oh, so you're just the guy that flies around in a circle, yeah?
I have really good eyes.
Yeah. They've got the 32-inch monitor. They're sitting two inches away from it, scanning the whole thing. Oh yeah, I see it now.
I have great call-outs, man. He's pretty much just the coach of the team.
Yep, absolutely. Just sitting back, chilling. But the other thing, so we've talked about Sky Slayers having an impact. The only other class that I think has that same potential level of impact is the Archmage.
I find that interesting. Why do you say that?
I think it depends on how their portals are balanced. If they can place portals anywhere and just kind of connect any two dots, that again opens up the different rotation times for them. That makes them impossible to gauge. Right. And so really good Archmages will be exceptionally better than a lot of other players because they can manage those rotations much, much faster. So I think that they will also have the most influence in the game in that way.
Yeah, their lane management will be insane.
You're going to see some insane micromanagement of everything from Archmage players.
I mean, I've seen that mechanic in other games where you can put down a rune or a portal or something and immediately go to that. And it does make for some crazy push potential when you can be in a team fight 1 second and then over pushing this lane the next. So,
and something somebody mentioned, I think it was CW, mentioned in one of his videos that the potential of Archmages having that roaming ability could mean that when we get multiple Archmages, we start seeing more played, or one in every lane, or whatever that looks like. And I didn't think about it until he mentioned it, but that's true. If their rotations are powerful enough, you start going Archmage support, or you run one jungler and do Archmage support in one lane, marksman support in another lane, and then the Archmage in the middle with your UAV roaming the skies. And that's a potential there as well.
It'll be the rat strat. Every MOBA has their rat strat where you don't team fight at all. You just focus on driving down those lanes and quickly escaping whenever the enemy tries to prevent you from doing so. Yeah, if you had multiple Archmages, they could all three move together, completely decimate a lane. The only saving grace would be their basic attacks wouldn't be all that significant against the tower. But if you can get your marksman up in there, then
it won't matter.
Yeah, it won't matter.
So there's going to be
that's interesting. Yeah,
I'm excited and nervous about for Ethereal is the fact that there's so many of these possibilities with these classes in mind. Or if you can get a team of Berserkers and they just cut holes down jungle lanes so you can just get a beeline from one place to another, that's insane. I'm sure we're going to see some weird metas pop up of different team comps.
Yeah.
Which is good and bad at the same time.
There's definitely going to be some strange rotations for like class-specific rotations. They've even mentioned that they want that to be a thing, class-specific rotations.
And
then the Scuttlers don't have that problem. They just rotate wherever the hell they want.
I really hope that the game is diverse enough and balanced in a state that we can get different metas on each team and have them both be viable.
Right.
That we can see the Archmage support in one lane and You have like you do double archmage. So you have archmage support in the fire lane, and you have an archmage in mid lane, and then play the other 3 the same way, and then you get like a really cool difference. Or you have 2 berserkers on one team, or whatever it looks like. I would
like
love
a team
to
fight
see
oriented comp versus a rat comp, and just whoever can play their comp the best is the one that wins the game.
And I think you're going to get, there's going to be some of that just with the myths. If the myths are balanced in enough state, you can have those different comps as well.
Yeah.
But I think the classes add another level of that at the same time. That they'll enhance or detract from certain areas of certain team comps based on which classes you have belonging there.
I think it's going to take a while too, once after they release the pre-alpha, for them to balance everything and establish like a pretty, like a solid state, because there's going to be so many of these weird compositions that come out that they're going to have to juggle and make sure that aren't too powerful. Then you don't want to overreact, because a new strategy may be really powerful for a week until people learn how to adapt and defeat that strategy. So you don't want to completely nerf it into the ground as soon as it crops up. So yeah, it's going to be a tumultuous time, but it's going to be a fun time, especially if you're on the team that has come up with this crazy new blingy strat. Even if you're on the team that isn't, you're witnessing something new that you never thought of. And you're like, I'm going to carry that forward and try that myself in the next few games to come, you know?
Absolutely. And that I know I'm going to be 100%, like every day I'm going to be like, what about like this composition and like putting things together? I'm already doing that and the game's not even out yet. But I know going against a team that they're doing something weird, and I'll be like, I can see the potential. I see where you guys are going with this. Like, let's see how it actually plays out, kind of deal. The theory crafting excites me to no end. But
yeah,
overall,
it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm glad we're getting more information from them. There probably won't be a video this coming week, or if it is, it's going to be a community corner, they said. And then sometime soon, TM, we're getting gameplay and a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Sometime. I don't expect it for a while.
Yeah, I'm still sitting on my laurels, thinking the end of May at the earliest.
Okay, yeah. I'm good with that.
Kind of,
if it is I'm good with that if it is at the end of May.
But so I do want to talk to you actually slightly separate, is what do you think about releasing a gameplay trailer? Like what does the trailer into the Kickstarter look like for you? Like what do you think is the best way to do that?
I think they need to release hand in hand, side by side. I think the gameplay trailer should lead people towards the Kickstarter.
Okay, I completely
agree.
And
the Kickstarter should be enhanced by having a gameplay trailer as part of the Kickstarter.
As the proof of concept.
Right.
Yep, I completely agree. I think if there's any downtime between the two, you lose traction.
A little bit,
You give people the time to doubt, I think is the way I would put it, is with the gameplay trailer, it's kind of sleazy, I guess, is the way to put it. But from a business perspective, if I watch that gameplay trailer and I'm going like this, I want to play this right now, I'm going to go drop my money on it right at that very moment. If you give me a week, 2 weeks, even a couple days to think about it and lose that hype, I'm way less likely to spend my money.
That's true. Yeah, I think they definitely need to go hand in hand. And like, if you're looking at a Kickstarter and there's no gameplay trailer, you're going like, no. Because I look through Kickstarter and like Indiegogo a lot just to find new and upcoming games that I find interesting. Yeah, if they don't have a gameplay trailer, I'm like, well, I don't know about this.
How do I know you're legit? Yeah. Absolutely. And luckily, they've always said that they wanted a gameplay trailer before the Kickstarter comes out. So it's just a matter of waiting for those two things to happen, I guess.
I think any new players that just kind of stumble upon the Leah video are going to be kind of blown away. Even with some of the wonkier parts of that video, they're going to be like, what, you can fly? I think that's going to draw a lot of people in. So they definitely need to put some stuff like that into the gameplay trailer. I think actual flight, though, like there needs to be a lot more from the actual perspective of the player in the game, in the gameplay trailer, not just a setup shot and then shit's going on right here. You need to see, like, you need to be running with Malaya as she runs up a tree and claws somebody or something like that.
Yep. I completely agree with you on this, that it needs to feel natural and it feel like you're the one, when you're watching it, you should feel like you're the one playing the game.
Right.
You should be able to see yourself being that person, being that myth, running around, flying around, destroying walls, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and I kind of hope that along with a gameplay trailer is just like maybe another cinematic trailer, or maybe a trailer where it's just like a kind of a community corner where they explain their whole concept. And I think that should be that should come a little bit after the gameplay trailer too. I think that would be another good thing to put on their Kickstarter.
Yep, I completely agree. Anything else you want to talk about this week, Mangoose?
I think that's it. All right,
man. Any plugs?
Nope. I got no plugs. What about you?
Ethereum.gg. So we released our builder this week. It's definitely like a version 1, right? We're not by any means like calling it complete, but we want you guys to go out and break it. It's really the truth of the matter. We want you to go out, find the little things, find suggestions, do all those things, and then join my Discord or send me a message on Discord with like a, hey, I would love it if you added this or this broke, and let us know. We're trying to make this as good as possible for the community. We're going to be putting up regular updates to it. I'm going to post patch notes, the whole 9 yards, and then slowly but surely have it come out with the game and be ready to go for that.
Right on, man.
Yeah. Stoked.
All right, good stuff. So, guys, if you saw that Leah spotlight and you thought, holy shit, I can fly in a MOBA, go on over and head out and check out Ethereal and join us as we all enter the ether. Mangoose!